Hi, my name's Tom Herbert and I'm a fifth generation baker. My family business, Hobbs House Bakery, have built up a fantastic reputation for making award-winning bread. But I believe anybody can make great bread at home, and I'm going to teach you how to make the ultimate enriched dough. A loaf that sits beautifully at the centre of the table. A loaf that's a celebration of baking and life itself. We're going to make challah. And I've got my brother Henry Herbert here, he's a chef.
Challah is sweet, soft, rich and irresistible, and I've got some fantastic recipes to make with it.
In order to bake at home, there's just a few bits of kit you've got to have, and they are an oven. Any oven will do, but if it will fire up to 230 degrees, then that's going to be perfect for baking. Next, you'll need a baking stone. They look like this, otherwise known as pizza stones or baking tile. They'll help to keep the heat in your oven. A good quality mixer like this will take some of the effort out of home baking, but if you don't have one, then a simple mixing bowl like this would be just fine. A decent pair of digital scales are really helpful for weighing up your dough. A scraper is an essential bit of baking kit. You'll also need some cling film. I'm going to need a high-sided roasting tin to bake it off in, a pastry brush, and a little pot for my egg. You'll definitely need a decent pair of oven gloves. Right, that's all the kit. Let's get baking. So let's start with the ingredients. First, you're going to need 600 grams of strong white flour. I've got some here from Ship to Mill. Then you'll need 10 grams of sea salt. You'll need 15 grams of fresh yeast. You'll need 270 millilitres of warm water. To enrich the dough, we need 30 grams of caster sugar. You'll need 50 grams of soft butter. You'll need 2 eggs. And finally, some poppy seeds. Right, I've got all my ingredients, so let's get baking. So first I'll need my scales. And I'm going to weigh the ingredients directly into the mixing bowl. And first up, 600 grams of strong white flour. And now to season the bread and bring out those wonderful flavours, 10 grams of Cornish sea salt. And now to rise this most beautiful of loaves, just 15 grams of fresh yeast. Now you need warm water. 1 gram is exactly the same as 1 millilitre, so I'm going to weigh 270 grams directly into the bowl. Now we need 30 grams of caster sugar. This will give it a golden crust and a sweetness that's irresistible. Now I need 50 grams of soft butter. This will seriously enrich our dough. Now all I need is 1 whole egg. Now we've got all our ingredients, we're ready to get mixing. And if you're doing this by hand, you ought to expect it to take no less than 15 minutes. So I'm going to use my scraper and keep one hand clear to start with and just blend the ingredients together. This is one sticky mess to start with, but as you work it, you'll see the ingredients really start to come together. And already you can smell the butter. Once your ingredients have started to come together, clear yourself a space and turn the dough onto the work surface. Now I'm going to use the heel of my hand to work this dough across the work surface. Each time lifting it back up off the surface and bringing it back towards me. And what I'm doing is stretching my dough. I'm developing the gluten that's in the flour, and this gluten's really important for making your dough stretchy and elastic, because as the yeast that's in your dough lives and breathes, so it breathes out carbon dioxide, and it's those precious air bubbles that we need to capture if we're to rise ourselves a magnificent loaf. You can really see how this dough's starting to come together, but it's not mixed yet. This dough needs some serious work in order to create something that's beautiful, smooth, creamy and elastic. And after several minutes, you'll see how already it's not sticking to the table, and I've resisted the temptation to dust the table with flour, and it's coming clean from my hands. There can't be any more rewarding way to create something so tasty and beautiful and take out the stresses of the week than to make a beautiful challah. However, if you've got a mixer, you might as well use it. And if you're using your mixer right from the beginning, start it on first speed, or otherwise the flour will jump out and you'll end up wearing it. But once it's got to this stage, you can turn it up to halfway. Whether you're mixing it by hand or in a mixer, you need to do it till it's done, and I'll show you what that looks like. So it's been 15 minutes since we started mixing, and this dough is ready. It's beautifully soft and creamy. Just look at that. And yours should look just like this and be this fantastically elastic. So having moulded this dough into a beautiful round ball by cupping it between my hands, I'm now going to put it back into the bowl and give it its first rise. It just needs to be covered with some cling film so that the dough doesn't dry out. Now you need to leave it somewhere warm to double in size. This shouldn't take any longer than an hour. In just half an hour, the dough has doubled in size and it smells so buttery. Now we need to turn the dough onto the work surface. So tease it out with your scraper. Challah is a plaited loaf, so we're going to divide this dough into 3 pieces. Now we need to mould these dough pieces out into thin tapered sausages about the length from elbow to wrist. We're going to make this to start with as if it was a small loaf. Stretch it out into a rectangular shape and then visualize it in thirds. Fold first that third over and then the second third over, and using my knuckles, make a seam. I'm going to press down hard on the edge closest to me, keeping your dough piece off the table as much as possible. Then, using thumbs and fingers, we're going to roll the dough towards us. So starting at the top, rolling it towards us, and then sticking it down with the thumbs. Roll it in, stick it with your thumbs, until you reach the seam at the bottom, and there it is. Then repeat the process with the other 2 bits of dough. Then go back to your first piece of dough, and continue to roll it out, pushing harder at the edges to create a taper, until you've got it the right length, elbow to wrist. Then repeat the process with the other bits of dough, pushing down harder at the ends to create a taper. Now we need to plait these loaves, and I'm going to start plaiting them in the middle This is the best way to get a great end result. So line up your 3 pieces and then take the outside one and put it over the middle. Take the other outside one and put that over the middle. Take this outside one and put it over the middle, into 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 the middle, middle. And then turn it around. Now, exactly the same thing, but instead it's going to go under and into the middle. Into the middle, 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 into the middle. A perfectly plaited loaf. But to really finish the picture, I'm going to glaze it with egg yolk to give it a wonderful golden lustre. Put your challah into the high-sided roasting tin. Mine's non-stick, but if yours isn't, use some baking paper. Now we need to glaze our challah. Now for the final finishing touch, you need a fistful of poppy seeds. Following the valley of the plait, right the way down to the end. Ace. Now we need to cover the tin with a piece of cling film to stop the challah from drying out. Now you need to leave it somewhere warm to double in size. On top of the oven is perfect while you're preheating it to 210 degrees. This should only take about half an hour. So the challah's had half an hour and it's doubled in size. So carefully remove the cling film. Now I'm going to put it in the oven that's been preheated to 210 degrees. I'm going to bake the loaf on the baking stone, and that will just help get heat right into the base of the loaf. It'll jump up for a perfect bake. I'll check that in half an hour. So the challah's been in there in just over half an hour. Let's see how it's doing. It smells fantastic and it's gonna taste great. You could make that.
Tom's made me this fantastic challah and it's cooled down, and I'm going to be making a bread and butter pudding. Let me start. I've got a few sultanas here, so I'm just going to sprinkle a few in the bottom of the base. And I've got some softened butter here. And here we've got a mixture of eggs, sugar, cream and milk. Just going to pop this in an oven at 160 for about 30 to 40 minutes.